Hi, hello, everybody out there in YouTube land. My name is Jared Logan, and you are watching the Stream of Blood. We are a live streaming tabletop role playing games channel, and one of our big series, my favorite series that we play here on the Stream of Blood, is Vampires of Pittsburgh. That's a Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition campaign that we've been running. I think we're at something like 33 episodes, 34. Actually, let me bring in my assistant producer, partner, and the guy that helps write these games with me, Mr. Clinton Trucks. Hey, buddy.
Hey, Jared.
How many
episodes?
How many episodes have we done?
I would say 30 episodes of what we're calling Chronicle 1, Chronicle 2, Lockdown. 3 episodes, but I'm calling it 2.5. One of them is kind of interstitial.
One of them is an interstitial. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So we've done 32.5 episodes of the vampire game. So it's a good game. It's a sustainable game. And today we're just here to talk to you about how to create your own Vampire the Masquerade Chronicle at home. How do I do this? How do I conceive of and carry out my own chronicle that my players are going to have fun playing in, that has a lot of legs that I can play for a long time and feel like it doesn't run out of steam? How can I create a setting and NPCs that are evocative, provocative, that make players want to keep playing? That's what's the most important thing. The most important thing is the players, right? So that's what we're going to do today. So a couple things before I start. First, this video, I'm assuming you've at least read the rule book. If you don't know what Vampire the Masquerade is, I suggest, going and watching Stream of Blood, Vampires of Pittsburgh from episode 1. I promise you'll enjoy it. And you could also check out the Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition big role-playing game book. Wait, I have it right here. Go and buy this guy right here and read it, and then come back. And I will show you how to turn all of this. Look at all this information. There's so much info in here. There's even, look, they have full costuming. Look, I'm going to teach you how to turn all this information into something that you can play. And I'm going to do it all from the confines of my guest bedroom. You're welcome. Okay. Here we go. So I'm assuming you've read the rule book. And second, I always want to give this preface before I give any kind of advice, which is that I think that a lot of experienced GMs do some of the stuff I'm about to say like intuitively, and that's often my way. Is I don't really kind of write out every single one of these steps, because I kind of been doing this long enough that I kind of know that I need to do them, and sometimes I forget to do some of these steps, and that's usually a mistake. So it's actually a good idea to kind of follow these kind of plans when you are conceiving of a chronicle or a campaign for any game. I guess I'm just saying all of this to say, do what I say, not what I always do. And that, like me, you're probably going to make some mistakes when you're trying to kind of create a world for your vampire players, but that's okay. Mistakes are opportunities, just as long as you're having fun. That's all that matters. Okay, so the first thing we have to do, because Vampire is a modern game, right? It takes place in kind of a dark version of our modern world. And by God, is it hard to come up with a darker version of the current modern world. But you can do it. I mean, just by putting vampires in it, it gets a little bit worse. So we want to choose the setting. I think that's our very first step. So we need a city, because Vampire is usually framed as a game that takes place in a city. That's the setting for your game, and it gives you a lot of the flavor of your game. So here are 2 tips I have for choosing your city. First of all, okay, when you are choosing your city, do not be intimidated to choose a city that you've never been to or that you don't know a lot about, all right? You are allowed to make stuff up. You don't need to know every street by name. You don't need to know whether the city has a bowling alley. By the way, If it's an American city, it probably does have a bowling alley. But you don't need to know every detail. All right. There's tons of information about any major city on the internet that you can use. You can look up while you're playing. That's how beautiful and wonderful the internet is for game mastering. Because I used to game master before anybody had the internet. I'm not even joking, in the early 90s. And we couldn't just look up a map of a city back then. So you don't need to be intimidated like, oh, I've never really been to Saskatchewan, I probably shouldn't use it. Yes, you should. If it's got something evocative in it that makes you excited to kind of spend some fictional time there, you should pick that city. Which brings me to my second tip about picking your city. It should be based on a vibe. It should be based on a vibe that you want in your game. And the way I talk about vibes is usually by talking about other stuff, right? Other types of fiction. Like, so let's say you love the vampire movie Near Dark, right? Which is kind of about nomadic vampires out in the desert. Or maybe you love the comic book American Vampire by Scott Snyder and Stephen King, which is a great comic book, which is about like kind of an ageless like outlaw who became a vampire in the American Southwest. Well, then maybe you'd choose a city like Santa Fe or Flagstaff, Arizona, and then you're going to get some of that vibe, some of that flavor in there. You want vampires and cacti. So you've chosen that city. Maybe you want a completely different vibe. Maybe you're like a tech person and you love tech. That's like your other interest other than role-playing games. And you also are like very interested in like online conspiracies and like all the political stuff going on and like the class war. I think then San Francisco sounds like a great city for you to kind of set your vampire game in. You could create an Amazon type company run by vampires, right? Maybe you want more of an espionage feel in your game. You want to feel like it's like spies versus vampires. Maybe you go for some international city like Moscow. The point is, you don't need to know what exactly all the ins and outs of it are going to be. You just have picked kind of an extra genre by picking your city, right? So you already have the genre of modern vampires or like horror, and then you're just picking another city to kind of attach something to that'll make it unique and most importantly specific, because these things are more fun and more interesting for your players if they're specific, right? If you go really generic or you don't have like that extra vibe or detail, then it's not going to be quite as memorable. People will always remember the sort of half Western, half vampire like Santa Fe Chronicle you did, but they might not remember the Chronicle you set in your own hometown, which is advice I see all the time, even in the book, like set it in your hometown. And I think that I've done that. And I think it tends to make people kind of laugh at the whole Chronicle while you're playing it. They're like, I guess I go to that McDonald's on York Boulevard. Like I say, don't do that. I say go for some far off place that gets you excited. Now, I realize I say this as the storyteller of Vampires of Pittsburgh, but I actually happened to know when I was creating the Pittsburgh setting that it had lots of things that make it perfect for vampires to infest it and have their own secret wars there. And I kind of liked that it seemed like kind of a baseline American city, but there was a lot of things going on under the surface. For example, it does have a tech community, but most importantly for me, I knew it was in the Rust Belt. So it had tons of abandoned buildings and cool abandoned buildings, big furnaces and like, abandoned like railroad tunnels and all kinds of neat spots like this where you could put cool vampire fights and vampire meetings and vampire headquarters. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for to not be intimidated by picking something crazy and out there, a place we've never been that's exotic to us is a good idea. And we're also looking to kind of make the Chronicle very specific in the way that we choose our city. So let's choose a city right now. I'm going to bring in some of our subscribers. We have our friends Nick and Clancy here. Can we bring those guys in? Hi guys. Hey, how are you? Oh, and I'm my pal Greg. How's it going, Greg?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. It's going really good. So, I want a suggestion. What should we have for a city for our campaign here?
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas. Oh, okay, great. Well, I mean, so Las Vegas clearly has. Have you ever been, Clancy?
Yeah.
Okay. And is there a Las Vegas by night out there somewhere on the internet already? There isn't, is there?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Okay. Well, that's good. Then it will be our own original creation. If it does exist out there somewhere, we can have 2 different versions. We're allowed. So let's go ahead and create our Las Vegas here. I'm trying to share a screen. I think I can do it like this. Oh, there we go. Okay. And then I can say Las Vegas by night. And so, of course, that's a very specific place. And we kind of get the kind of weird things that go on there all the time. So I think that'll be, oh, look what I've done. Oh, God. Now those are just my personal messages. What the hell? Oh, God in heaven. Everything was going so well, too. There it is. Okay.
You're embarrassing us in front of our subscribers, Jared.
I know. Well, there it is. Okay, so Las Vegas.
I'll be taking my Amazon subscription back. Thank you.
There we go. Okay, so we're gonna do Las Vegas by night. Let's kind of decide, like, kind of what are some of the things about Las Vegas that we like, that we and I'm talking about literally one word or like one sentence. Things about Las Vegas that we like, that we think are just going to be part of the Chronicle. So does anybody have like something that they think, like, for example, you know what? I'll add the first one. Let's just pick 3. I'm going to just say the Mafia. I want the Mafia.
That was what I was going to say. So,
well, great minds think alike. So Nick, do you have anything about Las Vegas that you think is memorable or would be good for a Vampire Chronicle?
Penthouses. Got to have a scene in a penthouse.
Penthouses, yes, right, because vampires like to look out over the city and go, "It's all mine." Great, okay, and let's see, any others? What else do we have?
I think that part of what could make Vegas a cool setting, and it's kind of like what makes Pittsburgh a good setting, is that there's a little bit of like desperation there, even though it's like people get into trouble in Las Vegas.
Yeah, they absolutely do. Oh my God, that's a great one. Desperation and I'm just gonna say, and trouble.
Now mine sounds stupid.
No, not at all. Actually, I don't think it sounds stupid at all, because I think that penthouses, I mean, like, they're like secret things happen in them. They're kind of detached from the rest of the, you could even make penthouses. I'm not even joking, like a major part of the Chronicle. Like, there are like, each of the big casinos has a very powerful vampire living at the very top of it. And that could be some kind of really ongoing running through line through it. So I think that's a good idea.
A great juxtaposition with desperation, now that I think about it. So
right. Yeah. So already we're talking about, actually, I'm going to add this too. I gotta add this too. Wait, let me just share. Yeah. Okay. Because I think we got to talk about how people on the lowly desert ground level, vampires on the high penthouse level in balconies looking down on them. Mm-hmm. So that's a kind of a theme of our game, and I think it's really kind of interesting. And it's interesting that we don't have gambling here yet. And of course, it will make an appearance, but it's not important yet, is it? Okay. So I'm gonna pop all of our friends out for a second, and I'm gonna talk about the next portion. And this is we're about to do. Actually, no, wait, stay. I want you to stay, because now what we need to do is something that I don't need to. Yeah, don't go back to the void. GM tip: try balconies. Okay, well, I'm being made fun of, but I think a fight on a balcony at a Las Vegas penthouse would be awesome.
Or
Well, I mean, and the
bar.
other cool thing with Las Vegas too is like all of the properties that were bought up around during the big boom time that are now left abandoned. All those neighborhoods and stuff around give you a lot of things to play with.
And hotels hotels and casinos make for great like self-contained domains.
Ooh, hunting grounds. So
yeah,
good.
and you've got like people coming in and out, tourists. You can just pick
Like
them off.
Malkavians own like Caesar's Palace, but the Tremere own the Luxor, like stuff like that, right?
The Nosferatu are holding down like the seedy, like old side of Vegas.
Yeah.
Circus.
Who gets Circus? If not the Malkavian.
That's incredible. Okay, so what we need is we need now players. We need our players. And the reason I say this is like the most important thing, like, and we don't need to create full characters right now. We don't even need to have names for them. But anytime you make any kind of campaign, it should really be about the players and the stuff the players want to do and the things that are important to them. So, before you get into all of like the complicated stuff where you're deciding on your world, you ask the players what kind of character they think they're going to play. And they might tell you something really vague and quick, like, oh, I'm going to be a plumber, or who became a vampire, or my character got turned into a vampire when they were only 19 years old, or something like that. That's all they need to tell you, but you should have just enough information that you are making the Chronicle fit the players and not trying to make the players fit into the Chronicle. And it's super important because I've played in so many games and ran so many games where people came to me with character ideas and I was like, that's not going to really work for the city that I have in mind. And that doesn't, I'm going to go ahead and come out with a hot take. That's bad. Don't tell your players no. As much as you can, say yes. So before you come up with every little thing about your world, you need to ask them what they're playing. And but you need to have a little information before you ask them. You need to be able to give them a little information. You can't just say, we're playing vampire. Who do you want to play? But if you tell them, we're playing Las Vegas by night, we're playing vampire in Las Vegas, who do you want to play? That gives them enough for them to come up with a character concept really quick. Because I can think of 100 ideas right off the top of my head for a character when you tell me we're playing vampire in Las Vegas. So we have just enough to get info from the players now. So you're going to be my 3 players. Clancy, what kind of character are you playing? When I send you the email, guys, tell me about your characters. What kind of character are you playing?
I think she was a card dealer who got turned maybe just during someone's frenzy or something
a croupier, maybe.
Croupier, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's really cool, actually. And there's an incredible Clive Owen movie called Croupier, which is like a thriller about a guy that does that. So we could definitely turn that character into that's someone with a great deal of discipline and like kind of reserve and sense of etiquette, which I think would do well in the vampire world, right? That's interesting. Okay. Yes. GM tip. Watch. I'm being roasted by Clinton Trucks as I do it. Okay. Nick, what do you think? Do you have a character idea for me?
I do. So I'm thinking meek, pathetic, down on his luck IT guy who came to Vegas for a big poker tournament, where he thought he was going to turn it all around before things went. Then
it didn't go. He didn't turn it all around. He's one of those desperate people in Vegas.
Exactly.
I love that. Great. I mean, I can feel a lot of ways that character can go. We don't need to know what clan he is. We don't need to know what powers he has. We just need to know the vibe of the character before we make the rest of our setting. And Greg, what are you thinking?
I think I would go for someone who in their previous life was like an old-fashioned hotel detective.
That's
like
amazing.
One of the guys who lived in one of the, who worked in one of the like old Vegas hotels and investigated the like small crimes there back in like the 50s or 60s or something like that, and has just kind of stayed around Vegas.
those guys also had to sometimes get rid of bodies and do kind of more illicit work, right? Because they were employed by the hotel and serving the hotel's best interests, not the public's. So that's an incredible idea. A hotel detective. I love it. I love it. I love it. So now we know enough that we can move on to the next portion of our creation process. And this is after making sure you're focusing on the players. This is the most important thing specifically for a vampire game, because a lot of this advice I'm throwing out here probably would work for any game, but for a vampire game, you need to make really, really good NPCs, really, really good non-player characters. So I am now going to say goodbye to our subs for just a second while I go off lecturing and listening to the sound of my own voice for a little while.